Jiro, your average lonely high school dude, just cruising through life like nice guy, however he got no bitch. But one day, Sakura, the boss lady of the student council, throws him a curveball. She wants him to be her slave. I mean right-hand man. Now, Jiro's always thought Sakura was cool and have some of what he need, and teaming up with her only made him respect her more. So when she drops the bomb about going on a date, his heart's doing backflips. Fast forward to this epic riverside hangout, they share a heart-to-heart talk. The sun's setting, the breeze is just right. Sakura asks him to sit with her on bench. Jiro's feeling on top of the world, like I would because I can't get any But then Sakura hits him with a bombshell. She's got a massive crush on Jiro's best bud, Teiyu. Turns out, Teiyu's been her crush since she saw him rally the baseball team after a brutal loss. Now, Sakura wants Jiro to be her matchmaker and set her up with Teiyu. Jiro's heart kinda drops, but he's not about to leave Sakura hanging. So, even though it stings a bit, he's all in to help her out. The next day, Jiro decides it's time to move on and take up his childhood friend Himawari's offer to hang out. He'd turned her down the day before, hoping for something special with Sakura. Even though he's out with Himawari now, his mind keeps drifting back to the embarrassment of yesterday's rejection. Himawari quickly picks up on his mood, and when he dodges her questions about it, she decides to cheer him up with her melons. I mean the most fun day ever. As they hang out, Jiro slowly starts to feel better and focuses on enjoying the moment. They go all out. Jiro treats Himawari to a fancy meal, buys her gifts, and really makes the day special. By the end of the date, they're sitting on a bench again, and Himawari drops a bombshell of her own. She has deep feelings for someone. Jiro's excitement quickly turns into horror as her confession starts sounding all too familiar. She reveals that she's in love with Teiyu too, ever since she saw his leadership at that same baseball game. Himawari asks Jiro to be her wingman, just like Sakura did. Feeling trapped but unable to say no, Jiro reluctantly agrees. Deku was a geek, and when night rolls in, Jiro's room turns into a battlefield. He's chucking, smashing, and slamming things, frustrated that his plan to act like a regular, nice guy in high school has crashed and burned. It's like he's become invisible to the girls, and he's feeling lower than low. But then, a spark ignites in his mind. Two girls, Sakura and Himawari, are both crushing on the same dude, Teiyu. Jiro sees a golden opportunity to swoop in and clap the other girl. The next morning, on his way to school, Himawari catches up with him, full of energy and ready to brainstorm. But before they dive into strategies, Jiro comes clean. He's also lending a hand to Sakura in her quest for love. However, as Deku saw the incident and realized that when he grabbed All Might accidentally dropped the bottle containing. At school, Jiro struts into class solo, turning heads left and right. Teiyu notices the change and wonders what's cooking. Out of the blue, Himawari barges in, trying to play it cool but failing miserably. Jiro smoothly ducks out, using a student council excuse to leave Teiyu and Himawari to chat, just as he'd planned. Later on, Jiro rendezvous with Sakura in the student council room, revealing his double agent status just like he did with Himawari. Once Sakura is convinced he's got her back, he spills the beans about his plan for her. But when they bump into Teiyu in the hallway, Sakura's nerves get the best of her, and she blurts out her desire to be buddies. Who can help her at night? I mean just friends. Jiro swoops in, saving the day by explaining that getting to know Teiyu, an important underclassman, will help her with her prez duties. Close call, but Jiro's quick thinking saves the day again. At lunchtime, Jiro retreats to the library, seeking a break from the chaos caused by Sakura and Himawari. He craves some peace from their constant demands. While he's lost in thought, Pansy, the school's resident nerd, approaches him. Usually, Jiro tries to avoid her since she's often snarky, but this time she has something important to share. She reveals she knows all about his secret agreements with Himawari and Sakura, having been secretly watching him and gathering evidence. Caught off guard, Jiro reluctantly listens as Pansy explains that she has everything needed to expose his secrets to Teiyu. She then surprises him further by mentioning she got the same park bench where the other girls confessed to him. How the she got a bench in library. Taking a seat, she confesses that she has feelings for someone. Jiro hopes she's talking about Teiyu, but his heart drops when she admits she likes him instead. Frustrated by his luck, Jiro tries to gently reject her, but Pansy interrupts, saying she isn't fooled by his nice guy persona. She's in love with the real Giga Chad Jiro. Hearing this, Jiro abandons his pretense and bluntly tells her they will never be together. Pansy, like boss, clarifies that she doesn't want to date him. Instead, she wants him to visit the library every day at lunch to talk with her. Feeling trapped and desperate to keep his secrets, Jiro agrees. The following day, Himawari decides to purchase 2 movie tickets and asks Jiro to arrange a date between Teiyu and her. I think he's more like a slave than friend. Jiro approaches Taeyu and informs him that he has received 2 movie tickets from a friend for a movie he has already seen. He suggests that instead of letting the tickets go to waste, Taeyu should take them and invite someone like Himawari to accompany him. Himawari eagerly joins the conversation and agrees to the plan. However, Taeyu surprises both of them by simply handing his ticket to Himawari and encouraging her to enjoy the movie without him. Thinking quickly, Jiro reminds Taeyu about his hectic schedule with baseball and suggests that he could use a break. This eventually makes Taeyu to accept Himawari's invitation to go to the movies together on Saturday. Later that same day, Sakura approaches Jiro with a homemade lunch she has prepared for Taeyu. She asks Jiro to assist in setting up a scenario where she can have lunch with Taeyu after their classes. Jiro devises a plan and asks Taeyu to assist him with some student council paperwork as an excuse to get him to the council room. In the corridor, Sakura nervously approaches Taeyu and asks him in a formal tone if he would consider having lunch on the rooftop. Despite the ominous storm clouds gathering overhead, Jiro intervenes, emphasizing how such a lunch would strengthen their budding friendship. Sakura adds that she has packed enough food for 2 people, including Taeyu's favorite grilled pork dish. To their surprise, Taeyu extends the invitation to Jiro as well. Thinking on his feet, Jiro quickly declines, claiming that he already has plans to meet another chick during lunch, and hastily makes his exit. Jiro found himself seeking a moment of peace in the library, where he poured out his frustrations to Pansy. She handed him a batch of cookies she'd baked, listening intently as he tells how can those 2 not even have something to show to Taeyu. Jiro hadn't even considered the possibility that Taeyu might have feelings for someone else, and when the realization hit him hard, it was like a sudden punch to the gut. Pansy, always quick to see an opportunity, demanded something in return for her insights. Jiro nervously asked what she wanted, and after a moment's thought, she suggested that he take on the responsibility of organizing this year's school council library inspection. Reluctantly agreeing, Jiro knew it was a small price to pay for Pansy's help. Later that eventful day, Jiro decided to confront the issue head-on and find out if Taeyu had feelings for someone. He interrupted Taeyu's basketball practice and broached the delicate topic. Taeyu blushed and hesitated like you, clearly uncomfortable discussing personal matters in such a public setting. Understanding his friend's discomfort, Jiro proposed they move to a quieter spot in the courtyard for privacy. Seated on the notorious PTSD bench, Taeyu finally confessed his feelings for Pansy. He recounted a touching moment from a year ago, after a devastating loss in baseball, when Pansy had found him in tears. Her words of comfort had deeply touched him, marking the first time he'd felt safe being vulnerable with someone. Taeyu, hoping for Jiro's support as a wingman, acknowledged the risk of going against the interests of both Himawari and Sakura. Reluctantly, Jiro declined. Say what the f he sees in that nerd-ass bitch. Explaining that he didn't know Pansy well enough and couldn't betray his friends. Taeyu shifted gears, seeking Jiro's advice on baseball instead. Jiro encouraged Taeyu to persevere and trust his teammates, stressing the importance of hard work and camaraderie on and off the field. After returning to the school premises, Jiro found himself entangled in a web of perplexing choices. Unable to decipher his feelings on his own, he immediately dialed Pansy, urging her to meet him in the corridor for some advice. With a furrowed brow, he straight up asked her thoughts about Taeyu, catching her off guard. Pansy, visibly taken aback, asserted her unwavering desire to take Jiro Excalibur. I mean be with Jiro alone. However, Jiro persisted, suggesting that Taeyu might be a better match for her, which seemed to irk Pansy. She swatted his hand away, causing heads to turn their way. Clearly pissed, she instructed Jiro to stop talking and emphasized that all she wanted is his Excalibur. I mean to converse with him and continue baking cookies for him. Before Jiro could clarify further, Taeyu strolled into the scene and completely misread the situation. Believing Jiro had betrayed him by secretly gaming his crush, Taeyu was visibly upset and ready to confront Jiro. Thankfully, Pansy intervened and clarified that Jiro was there on official council business, specifically concerning an upcoming library inspection later that day. This explanation diffused the tension and spared Jiro from Taeyu's impending wrath. Initially skeptical, Taeyu found it hard to believe, given the tense atmosphere. Pansy elaborated, explaining that her agitation stemmed from concerns about the library potentially closing due to low foot traffic. With palpable disdain towards Jiro, Pansy abruptly departed after setting the record straight. As she left, Jiro noticed that she had accidentally dropped her bag of cookies on the floor. Later that evening, utterly drained, Jiro collapsed onto his bed the moment he got home, seeking solace and a moment of respite. However, his peace was short-lived as his phone buzzed with an urgent text from Sakura, asking to meet him as soon as possible. As soon as Jiro stepped into the restaurant, anxiety gnawed at him as he scanned the room. His worries peaked when he spotted Sakura sulking in a corner booth. With a heavy heart, she revealed that Teiyu had asked her to use her charismatic leadership skills to win over Pansy and orchestrate a setup between Teiyu and Pansy. Adding salt to the wound, Teiyu had mentioned seeking Jiro's help initially, and when Jiro declined, he suggested Teiyu seek assistance from their other friends, citing a metaphor from their baseball days. Sakura's words cut deep as she accused Jiro of deceit and betrayal, telling him to f*** off from her life if lying was his intention. Before Jiro could utter a word in his defense, Sakura abruptly stood up and walked away, leaving him stunned and speechless. The following day, Jiro was summoned home by Himawari, where he faced yet another barrage of accusations. Himawari informed him that Teiyu had approached her with a similar request, seeking her aid in winning over Pansy. Jiro attempted to apologize for not disclosing Teiyu's true intentions earlier, but his words only caused Himawari to break down in tears. Aizawa takes them outside for a test. Struggling to explain himself, Jiro insisted he had only meant to offer innocent baseball advice. But Himawari's emotional blow landed like a devastating uppercut. Knocked off balance, Jiro found himself sprawled out in his chair as Himawari stormed off, slamming the door behind her. Her parting words pierced his heart, telling him to and refrain from meddling further in their affairs. How can he take this much from a dishwasher? The next morning, as Jiro trudged to school, he felt the heavy weight of loneliness from losing Sakura and Himawari. Lost in his thoughts, he was jolted out of his reverie when Teiyu unexpectedly caught up to him. Teiyu, noticing Jiro's evident bad mood, offered a reassuring shoulder, letting Jiro know he was there if Jiro ever needed to vent. As Teiyu walked away, Jiro received a text from Pansy calling him over to the library. Entering the library, Pansy immediately dropped the bomb that she was aware of what had transpired with Teiyu and the two girls. Jiro's frustration boiled over. He was on the verge of losing his temper when the library door swung open, revealing Sakura, Teiyu, and Himawari. The sight of Jiro with Pansy enraged Teiyu, who started accusing Jiro of lying about not knowing her. Himawari and Sakura joined in, berating Jiro for deceiving them. Overwhelmed by their accusations, Jiro snapped, revealing his true feelings. He lashed out, telling them to go to hell, declaring that unlike Teiyu, their anger was misplaced. He had worked tirelessly for them, even when they were practically useless without him, yet he was always the one blamed when things went wrong. He shouted that he had been nothing more than a tool to them, and his outburst left them stunned into silence. With his anger unleashed, Jiro felt a momentary satisfaction seeing their guilty expressions. He thought the only thing left was to clear things up with Teiyu. However, Pansy interjected, questioning why Jiro was pushing her toward Teiyu if he was so genuinely helping Himawari and Sakura. Jiro was too shocked to respond, and Pansy further fueled the chaos by revealing that Jiro had told her he planned to bag away the girl Teiyu rejected. Just as Jiro began to protest, Teiyu demanded he apologize to the girls and landed a powerful punch to Jiro's face, sending him crashing into a bookshelf. Teiyu then picked Jiro up and slung him over his shoulder, warning him to stay away from the girls from now on. As he carried Jiro out of the library, Teiyu confessed that he had once hoped they could be best friends for life. But after everything that had happened, he no longer wanted any association with him. Before the door closed behind them, Pansy whispered to Jiro to have faith in her, leaving him to ponder her cryptic message amidst the turmoil. In the days that followed, Jiro became the subject of incessant gossip at school. Whispers about how he had betrayed and ruined his friends' lives seemed to echo through every hallway. The rumor mill had been sparked by a girl who had witnessed the heated argument in the library, and wasted no time spreading the story. Adding to his woes, Sakura fired him from the student council, plunging him deeper into a pit of loneliness and depression. One day, as he was preparing for his next class, Jiro received a text from Pansy, asking him to meet her in the library for lunch. She claimed she wanted to confess her true feelings. Reluctant and still smarting from what he saw as her betrayal, he considered ignoring her. However, Pansy threatened to make things worse if he didn't show up, so he reluctantly headed to the library. The moment he arrived, he wanted to cut straight to the chase, but Pansy asked him to fetch a book from the shelves. As he scanned the shelves, Teiyu entered the library and sat down with Pansy. Hidden behind the books, Jiro found himself eavesdropping on their conversation. Pansy started by scolding Teiyu for spending every lunch in the library instead of being with his friends. Teiyu brushed off her concerns and invited her to watch him practice next time. Ignoring his invitation, Pansy abruptly asked why he had deceived and entrapped Jiro. Taeyu feigned ignorance, but Pansy was relentless, revealing she had seen through his schemes after talking to him for a week. She accused Taeyu of knowing how Himawari and Sakura felt about him and deliberately ignoring them to manipulate Juro into helping them, only to set him up for failure. Taeyu had wanted to create a rift between Juro and the girls, ensuring they would turn against him when things went wrong. When Juro refused to assist with his romantic pursuits, Taeyu had immediately shifted to a revenge strategy, enlisting Sakura and Himawari to help him while revealing Juro's knowledge of their feelings to further sabotage him. Taeyu defensively pointed out that Pansy herself had opposed Juro, but she explained it was merely a ruse to get closer to Taeyu and gather all the information she needed. She had to appear impartial to earn his trust and uncover his true intentions. As Juro overhears everything from his hiding spot, he sinks into a deep sadness. The fancy betrayal by his best friend of decades feels like a crushing weight. Meanwhile, Pansy keeps pushing Taeyu to reveal why he decided to betray Juro. Finally, Taeyu admits that it all goes back to middle school. Back then, a girl he liked had asked him to set her up with Juro. Despite his efforts to win her over, she ended up falling for Juro, who barely even noticed her. Taeyu had tried to expose Juro's flaws to her, but her feelings for Juro remained unchanged. Taeyu, now calmer, bluntly asks Pansy if she likes Juro and if that's why she is defending him. When Pansy confirms her feelings, Taeyu sighs, accepting that he has lost to Juro once again. He then reveals that this was his perfect opportunity for revenge. Juro was unknowingly putting himself in the same situation Taeyu had been in during middle school. Taeyu had known he could manipulate the girls and make them believe anything because they were infatuated with him. Taeyu then asks Pansy why she likes Juro despite his seemingly flawed nature. Pansy explains that Juro is actually very kind-hearted. Despite agreeing to help the girls, his main concern was always Taeyu's happiness. That's why he tried to convince Pansy to go out with Taeyu. The fact that Taeyu betrayed Juro despite his selflessness is why Pansy can never care for or be with Taeyu. When Taeyu asks why she cares so much for Juro, Pansy shares her story, which also began at the baseball tournament last year. Before she ran into Taeyu, she saw Juro waiting near the exit for a long time, holding Taeyu's favorite dish. Juro stood there under the scorching sun, enduring the laughter and mockery of others. Even today, Juro acts without jealousy or selfishness, always prioritizing Taeyu's happiness over his own dreams. This selflessness and kindness are what Pansy loves about Juro. As Taeyu's anger flares, he points out that the library is deserted during lunch, making a veiled threat that he could do anything to Pansy without anyone knowing. Pansy, however, remains calm and challenges him, showing no intention of fleeing. Taeyu, surprised by her composure, listens as she confidently states that there's no need for her to escape because she trusts Juro will come to her aid. At this cue, Juro emerges from his hiding spot and confronts Taeyu. Seeing Juro, Taeyu is visibly taken aback. Juro starts by acknowledging Taeyu's earlier comment about Himawari and Sakura, agreeing that they were misguided in how they treated him. Taeyu tries to laugh it off nervously, but Juro tightens his grip on Taeyu's shoulder, warning him not to belittle the girl's feelings. He then grabs Taeyu by the collar, lifting him slightly off the ground, and sternly calls him a piece of shit and tells him that the girls have put in a lot of effort for him. Juro makes it clear that Taeyu should not exploit the girls who genuinely care about him. After extracting a promise from Taeyu to apologize and never harm them again, Juro finally lets him go. As Taeyu leaves, Pansy approaches Juro and apologizes for not supporting him before. She moves in to kiss him, but like a Giga Chad, Juro pulls away, stating that he cannot forgive her so easily. He tells her that now that the issue with Taeyu is resolved, he has no reason to keep visiting the library. Pansy, feeling the weight of his words, confesses that she will miss him deeply. Juro hesitates for a moment, clearly affected by her confession, but ultimately he walks away, determined to move past the painful memories. When the student passed the entrance exam, they were given the task to make their hero costume.
Lord have mercy.
These outfits are like power boosters for students, helping them unleash their abilities to the fullest. But when it came to our pal Deku, who didn't have any special powers yet, he just doodled a costume that looked a lot like All Might. Then, his mom came to the rescue and sewed it up for him. During their conversation, Jiro gives Hina his thoughts on which students are likely to be chosen for the festival's flower dance. Midway through, he spots Himawari at her desk, struggling with her mid-semester prep work. Desperate for assistance, she looks around the room, her eyes pleading for help. Jiro sees his chance but hesitates too long, allowing Hina to spring into action first. Feeling disheartened, Jiro is about to give up when he recalls Pansy's encouragement to be proactive and mend his relationships. Determined to make the most of the situation, he approaches Himawari despite Hina's head start. He boldly interrupts Hina, announcing that he will be the one to help Himawari. However, this unexpected move flusters Himawari, who awkwardly bolts out of the classroom. Chasing her down the stairs, Jiro witnesses her slip and fall. Rushing to her side, he checks if she's okay. Embarrassed and upset, Himawari insists he stay away and tries to walk off. Undeterred, Jiro gently grabs her arm, assuring her that he doesn't see her as a troublemaker. Their emotions running high, they end up bickering about who should apologize first. It quickly becomes clear how ridiculous they are being, and they both start laughing, realizing the absurdity of their fight. The tension breaks, and they agree to be friends again. Jiro then suggests they study together, but he also asks for a favor in return. He needs her help with something before they hit the books. At Jiro's request, Himawari calls Teiyu to the rooftop, where Jiro presents him with a letter of challenge. Teiyu, anticipating a traditional test of strength or skill like baseball, is thrown off balance when Jiro reveals the true challenge, studying for the upcoming midterm exams. Jiro proposes that if Teiyu manages to pass, he will be declared the winner. But if he fails, Jiro will claim victory. As part of the plan, Himawari suggests that the three of them study together to ensure Teiyu's success. Seeing through the scheme, Teiyu turns to leave, but Himawari blocks his path. Realizing this strategy isn't working, Jiro gathers his courage and sincerely admits that he wants to restore their friendship. Himawari and Jiro persistently plead with Teiyu, bombarding him with their requests. Moved by their earnestness, Teiyu realizes how much he missed their camaraderie and agrees to rekindle their friendship. Overjoyed, Jiro heads to the library after school to share the news with Pansy. He tentatively asks for her help with their study sessions. Pansy agrees but makes it clear that she can see right through his plan. She also demands a favor in return. Jiro must take her somewhere nice. Having no other choice, Jiro agrees. Pansy then suggests they could invite another person to join their study group, hinting at Sakura. However, Jiro, oblivious to the hint, insists that the current group is sufficient, unaware that Sakura is eavesdropping outside. Feeling hurt and excluded, Sakura quietly slips away. A few days later, Jiro was casually strolling through the bustling school corridor when Hina intercepted him, asking if he had any free time. Jiro replied that he was headed to his study group, but as he spoke, a sudden chill ran down his spine. Turning around, he saw Sakura approaching, a stark reminder that he had forgotten about her. Hastening over to where Sakura sat alone on the stairs, tears streaming down her cheeks, he overheard her discussing her futile attempts at reconciliation. Feeling neglected by Jiro, without hesitation, he stepped forward to reassure her of his care, and spun a tale about cherishing the best for last, managing to calm her down. Later that day, the whole gang gathered at the library and wasted no time diving into their studies. Jiro explained that originally, Pansy and he had planned to tutor everyone, but now with Sakura, their senior, present, she might be better suited for the task. Sakura took the lead, starting with math and issuing each of them a daunting challenge, 5,000 problems to solve that very day. The sheer enormity of the task left everyone feeling overwhelmed. and Pansy skillfully maneuvered out of it by offering to assist Himawari with Japanese, her weakest subject. Meanwhile, Sun had already resigned himself to mental exhaustion as evening approached. The girls left the library, satisfied after a productive study session, while the boys were left mentally drained from grappling with Sakura's demanding questions. Inspired by their determination, Sakura announced her plan to prepare a staggering 8,000 English questions for the following day. This declaration sparked lively banter among the group, bringing a broad smile to Jiro's face. Determined to preserve this newfound happiness, he felt a surge of motivation to give his best for his friends. Lost in his thoughts, Jiro was snapped back to reality by his friends waiting a little further ahead. The banter continued as they walked home, filled with excitement for the evolving dynamics of their friendship. After the midterms wrapped up and results were announced, Jiro found himself unexpectedly accosted on his way to school by a jubilant Himawari. She was jumping with joy because both she and Teiyu had passed their exams. Despite Jiro's mild annoyance at being vigorously slapped on the back, Himawari's happiness was infectious, and he graciously accepted her thanks and endured her tight hug. Upon reaching school, Jiro's phone buzzed with a message from Sakura, urgently requesting a meeting. His positive mood was abruptly shattered by Hina intercepting him. She approached with a serious demeanor, hinting she had something important to discuss. Leading him to a quiet spot on the playground, she expressed her curiosity about him, making Jiro uneasy as past memories of awkward confession incidents flashed through his mind. Reluctantly sitting beside her on a nearby bench, Jiro braced himself for what he thought might be a romantic moment. However, to his shock, Hina accused him outright of being a manipulative womanizer. She confronted him, alleging that he was playing with the emotions of Himawari, Sakura, and Pansy all at once. Hina claimed she had witnessed him leering at a girl during a baseball game last year when she was working as a reporter, citing it as proof of his supposed deceit. To add weight to her accusations, Hina produced photos she had taken of Jiro with the girls in what she deemed compromising positions. Despite Jiro's earnest protests and explanations, Hina remained steadfast in her belief. She showed him a draft of a detailed article she intended to publish in the school newspaper, promising to withhold names from the final version. As a principled reporter, she declared her intent to shadow him closely until the upcoming flower festival. Depending on what she discovered, she would either vindicate him or expose his alleged actions during the festival, where a large audience, including parents, would be present. As Jiro walked down the corridor towards his classroom, Hina walked alongside him, and unexpectedly, they bumped into Sakura. She greeted Jiro, reminding him about their planned meeting, referencing her previous texts. Hina's expression immediately shifted, sensing something amiss, but Sakura swiftly diverted the conversation. She explained that she was there to discuss Jiro's recent selection for the upcoming flower dance. Sakura mentioned that she, along with Himawari and a first-year student named Kamada, had also been chosen. Sakura revealed that she had declined previous invitations but was now eagerly looking forward to participating. Throughout their conversation, Hina watched closely, which began to frustrate Jiro. Annoyed, he abruptly asked Hina to give him some space, signaling his irritation. During lunch that day, Jiro brought up the situation with his friends, hoping they could offer some advice or perspective. However, none of the girls were willing to entertain the idea of distancing themselves from Jiro, considering it unnecessary drama. Pansy suggested confronting the issue directly, but Jiro quickly realized it would be futile to approach the girls individually. Turning to Teiyu for support, Jiro was disappointed when Teiyu declined to get involved, citing other pressing matters. Jiro felt increasingly frustrated by his friend's lack of understanding and support. With Hina busy in her club room during lunch breaks, Jiro felt isolated and unsure of where to turn for advice. Despite feeling ignored and misunderstood, he reluctantly joined his friends for lunch. After lunch, as Teiyu left for baseball practice, Sakura unexpectedly broached the topic of Jiro's plans for the afternoon. She disclosed her intention to inform Kamada about the flower dance news and proposed that Jiro accompany her to meet Kamada and get to know her better. Jiro hesitated, reluctant to become more deeply embroiled in the situation than necessary. Sakura responded emotionally, shedding tears and emotionally manipulating him into agreeing to go with her. However, Jiro insisted that they maintain a strictly senior-junior relationship. During their interaction, to dispel any suspicions Hina might have about him clapping multiple girls at the same time. But that's the opposite of the reality, because he got no bitch. It was after school when Jiro found himself walking towards Sakura, with Hina trailing behind. Normally, this would have been an ordinary interaction, but today was different. Sakura's demeanor took an unexpected turn as she confronted Jiro aggressively. hurling accusations and insults about his tardiness. Hina, witnessing this sudden outburst, found herself increasingly intrigued and began subtly probing Sakura as they made their way towards Kamada's classroom. Outside Kamada's classroom, Sakura spotted her and urged Jiro to approach. However, upon his approach, Kamada visibly recoiled, nervously asking him to keep his distance. She referenced unsettling rumors circulating among the first-year students, particularly about Jiro's alleged foot fetish. Hina, keenly observant, took mental note of this awkward exchange, questioning her earlier suspicions about Jiro's supposed romantic involvements. She couldn't fathom any girl willingly associating with someone branded as sleazy by school gossip. Amidst the unfolding drama, news arrived that Kamada had declined to participate in the upcoming flower dance, a revelation swiftly conveyed to Jiro via text from Sakura. Processing this development, Jiro found himself approached by Hina, who, despite the accusations against Jiro being debunked, expressed unwavering interest in continuing to shadow him. Her newfound curiosity about Jiro piqued his intrigue, prompting him to readily agree to her proposal, shifting their focus to the practical implications of Kamada's decision. Hina speculated on who might fill the now vacant spot in the dance. Her musings hinted at the possibility of her own participation, sparking a flicker of hope in Jiro that they might dance together. Their conversation unfolded, exploring various scenarios and considerations until Sakura's next text interrupted their discussion. She informed Jiro that she had found a replacement for Kamada, instantly lifting his spirits with the prospect of the dance proceeding smoothly. As lunchtime approached, Jiro and his friends gathered together, including Sakura, who brought unexpected news. She announced that Teiyu would be taking the third position in the upcoming dance, having secured all necessary permissions. Teiyu, usually dedicated to baseball, embraced the opportunity with enthusiasm, relishing a chance to explore something new alongside his friends. With everyone fully committed to dance practice in the days that followed, they managed to convince Pansy to join them, injecting even more fun and camaraderie into their group dynamics. However, amidst their excitement and bonding, Hina silently struggled with feelings of exclusion, unable to join the dance due to circumstances beyond her control. She felt a pang of hurt each time she saw her friends enjoying themselves without her. A week before the festival, Jiro was caught off guard when approached by the classroom divas, who launched a sudden, vicious attack, slamming a school newspaper down on his desk. They pointed to an accusatory article plastered on the front page. Bewildered, Jiro demanded an explanation, only to have Sakura rush in, attempting to discredit the article as fake news. Her defense, however, backfired, drawing suspicion from the classmates, who began to speculate that Sakura might be one of Jiro's supposed 3 girlfriends. Before tensions could escalate further, Hina burst into the room, proclaiming that she had never intended to publish the article. Her failure to verify the information had prevented its release, eventually convincing the class of its falsehood. Despite this, the head diva, seething with resentment, vowed to destroy Jiro if any truth emerged from the rumors. After the tense confrontation and the fallout with Sakura, Hina felt a deep remorse for the turmoil her article had inadvertently caused. She earnestly apologized to Jiro, expressing her belief that her piece might have been mistakenly included among those ready for publication. Jiro, though initially taken aback by the chaos, found it in himself to forgive her, understanding the pressure and confusion she must have faced. Meanwhile, Sakura, sensing the strain her presence might exacerbate, quietly suggested to Jiro that perhaps things would be better if she distanced herself from him for a while. The barrage of bad news continued as Pansy later relayed that both Hina and Teiyu had decided to withdraw from their usual library meetings. Waiting for Jiro in the library, Sakura delivered more disheartening news, insisting that they should cease meeting altogether and practice individually for the upcoming dance. Before Jiro could voice his objections, Pansy intervened, advising that a temporary distance might indeed be beneficial for everyone involved. Sakura promptly left the library, advising Jiro to avoid the place for the time being. Later that evening, Jiro found himself sitting alone in an empty classroom. Hina, concerned for Jiro, approached him with genuine compassion, reassuring him that she would do everything possible to rectify the situation and clear his name. However, Jiro, overwhelmed by everything that had transpired, quietly gathered his belongings and prepared to leave for home. When Hina inquired about their dance practice, Jiro reluctantly informed her that they had decided to cancel it. which only added to her guilt and regret for inadvertently causing him more distress. Despite her self-blame, Jiro reached out to comfort Hina, recognizing her sincere intentions and understanding that she had acted out of concern for him, not malice. In an unexpected turn, Hina proposed that she personally assist him with the dance practice as a gesture of reconciliation and support. Touched by her sincerity and grateful for her unwavering support, Jiro agreed. As they embarked on this new arrangement, a tentative but genuine friendship began to take root between Jiro and Hina. As the long-awaited day of the flower festival finally dawned, a week of isolation had left Jiro feeling deeply despondent. His usual gang of friends had been strangely absent, leaving him to wander the school corridors alone, enveloped in a heavy cloud of melancholy. In the midst of his solitude, the divas materialized like a storm, their threats of retribution echoing ominously if the scandalous article turned out to be true. Jiro, already weighed down by their accusations, found himself on edge. Just as tensions peaked, Hina emerged like a guardian angel, stepping in to shield Jiro from the diva's intimidating presence. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Jiro couldn't help but feel an immense sense of relief and appreciation towards Hina, who had steadfastly supported him through what had undoubtedly been one of his toughest weeks. Once the immediate threat had passed, Hina confided in Jiro her strategy regarding the controversial article. She reassured him that she planned to delay its release until the second day of the festival, unwilling to cast a shadow over his performance on such a significant day. With genuine sincerity, she wished him the best for his upcoming dance, hoping for a positive outcome amidst the uncertainty. Just as Jiro began to find solace in Hina's reassuring presence, his phone abruptly rang, shattering the tranquility of the moment. It was Taeyu, urgently calling from outside the principal's office. Taeyu divulged a troubling development as school authorities voiced concerns about two boys participating in the flower dance. Apologetically, Taeyu informed Jiro of his decision to withdraw from the dance, leaving a critical void that needed to be filled by a female dancer. Despite the mounting challenges, Taeyu assured Jiro not to worry, pledging to resolve the issue swiftly. As Jiro pondered the predicament, his thoughts turned to the dance practice sessions he had shared with Hina. Recalling their collaborative efforts and the bond they had developed, he mustered the courage to approach Hina with a heartfelt request. He asked Hina if she would consider stepping in to take Taeyu's place, stressing that she was his last hope. To his surprise and immense relief, Hina's face lit up with determination as she readily accepted the challenge. Little did Jiro realize, this opportunity meant more to Hina than just filling a spot. It was a chance to fulfill a dream. As Jiro reached for his phone to call Sakura and update her on the latest developments, a surprising interruption occurred. The school president approached them with a serious expression. She explained that she had been searching for them and had caught wind of their conversation. With a direct gaze, she asked Jiro if he was absolutely certain about Hina being the replacement dancer. Jiro, with a firm nod, affirmed his decision. The president then turned to Hina and requested her presence in the student council room for a private discussion, hinting at sensitive information that Jiro should not be privy to. Despite the president's intention for confidentiality, Hina insisted that Jiro accompany her, and after a moment of hesitation, Sakura reluctantly agreed. Once inside the council room, they settled into an uneasy silence, tension thick in the air. To everyone's surprise, Sakura took charge and declared that she was vetoing Hina's participation in the dance. She reminded Hina sternly that her immediate priority should be drafting and circulating a retraction in the school newspaper to rectify the false accusations against Jiro. Sakura elaborated on her reasoning, emphasizing the need to prioritize Jiro's reputation over personal aspirations. Despite Sakura's persistent efforts to dissuade her, Hina remained steadfast in her conviction regarding Jiro's innocence. Unmoved by Hina's threats to expose their discord in the newspaper, Sakura stood firm in her decision. She accused Hina of misleading everyone, including Jiro. Despite knowing the truth about his purported involvement with multiple girlfriends, Sakura chastised Hina for avoiding critical moments, especially during lunch hours, which could have provided her with insights into the true dynamics of their relationships. Hina offered the excuse that she had been occupied with compiling articles in the newspaper office, but Sakura countered sharply, pointing out that the library would have been just as suitable a place for that task. Undeterred, Sakura continued, revealing that over the past week, she had discreetly spoken with students and uncovered unsettling rumors circulating about Jiro, particularly during lunchtime and predominantly among the first-year students. When Hina denied any involvement in spreading these rumors, Sakura shifted gears, citing another incident she had thoroughly investigated. She clarified that while Hina wasn't directly responsible for printing the leaked article, Sakura was certain that Hina had tampered with the articles the previous day after school. To substantiate her claim, Sakura disclosed that she had obtained the genuine key sheet from the newspaper room, which clearly bore Hina's name, shortly after the article's distribution. Driven by suspicion, Sakura wasted no time and immediately headed to the newspaper room to make a copy of the key checkout log. She strategically mentioned the newspaper room within earshot of Jiro during class to test Hina's reaction. True to her suspicions, Hina hastily took responsibility, inadvertently revealing her guilt. Sakura followed up by obtaining the current key sheet for a formal investigation, confirming her suspicions that Hina had indeed altered it. Adding to the mounting evidence, Sakura revealed a recent conversation with the school president, who confirmed Hina's involvement in raising concerns about the flower dance. Sakura then turned the conversation towards Hina's true intentions regarding Jiro. She exposed that Hina initially sought to isolate him to monopolize his attention, but her goals evolved when Jiro was chosen for the flower dance. Hina's new objective became participating in the dance herself, aiming to forge a deeper connection with Jiro with potential long-term aspirations, including marriage. Faced with overwhelming evidence and Sakura's unwavering scrutiny, Hina finally conceded. She acknowledged there was no way out and made a startling confession about a pivotal moment at a baseball game the previous year. Hina recounted how Jiro had selflessly saved her from a stray foul ball, an act of heroism that had instantly captured her heart and sparked her deep admiration and affection for him. Back in the room, tension soared as Hina adamantly claimed that she was the only one who belonged with Jiro. He, in turn, requested his friends to leave them alone so he could speak privately with her. Sakura intervened, calling out Hina's toxic behavior and delivering a heartfelt lecture on healthy relationships. Despite Sakura's attempt to calm her down, Hina couldn't contain her emotions and tearfully confessed her deep love for Jiro, pleading for a chance to be with him. However, Jiro, still reeling from the recent turmoil, couldn't reciprocate Hina's feelings. He bluntly told her that he didn't harbor any romantic feelings for her and unleashed his pent-up frustration, blaming her for the chaos that had ensnared everyone around them. In a fit of raw emotion, he demanded that she never show her face to him again. Hina, visibly shaken by Jiro's outburst, gathered herself and apologized to Sakura for the trouble she had caused. She then excused herself to fix the newspaper as Sakura had requested earlier. Left alone with Jiro, Sakura gently confronted him, revealing that she understood he had only pretended to reject Hina to push her away, not meaning any of his harsh words. Embarrassed at being caught, Jiro quickly changed the subject, expressing his concern about the upcoming flower dance. Sakura reassured him calmly, informing him that the substitution for the dance had been successfully arranged by Himawari, Teiyu, and herself. Just then, Pansy entered the room, looking stunning and making Jiro too much excited that he paint his pant in white. Himawari and Jiro took the lead on the dance floor, where she confessed that she no longer harbored feelings for anyone. Following them, Sakura eased Jiro's worries with her reassuring presence, subtly acknowledging her awareness of Hina's hidden feelings. Next in line was Pansy, who appeared so transformed that no one in the entire school could recognize her. Sakura, observing the murmurs in the audience, worried briefly about the gossip but was relieved when the couple's dance began, mesmerizing everyone into stunned silence with their elegance and poise. After the dance, Pansy thanked Jiro for his efforts to help her make friends, recalling the times he had brought his friends together in the library. When she asked him why he had done so much for her, Jiro gratefully admitted that he was indebted to her for rescuing him from his predicaments. As the final notes of their dance faded into the thunderous applause of the audience, Jiro and his friends retreated backstage, basking in the afterglow of their triumphant performance. Pansy, ever grateful, expressed her heartfelt thanks to the gang for the incredible experience, and they all enthusiastically agreed to continue their gatherings despite the conclusion of their ambitious project. The morning after the festival, Jiro awoke to an unusually cheerful atmosphere at home. His mother, with a playful twinkle in her eye, cheerfully informed him that she wouldn't be preparing his lunch, assuming he'd be dining out with his friends. Perplexed by how she knew his plans, Jiro inquired, only to discover that his friend had inadvertently spilled the beans. Turning around, he was taken aback to find Pansy seated comfortably in their living room. Over breakfast, Jiro couldn't resist asking Pansy why she was there. Pansy casually revealed that she had coincidentally bumped into Jiro's mom during her morning routine and struck up a conversation. Intrigued by the invitation, Jiro probed further. His mom explained that she had noticed Pansy engrossed in her favorite book at a local store, and later spotted her outside their house. Out of genuine warmth, she promptly invited Pansy inside. Amidst their light-hearted chatter, Pansy shared exciting news. She had managed to secure tickets for them to visit the water park. Excited by the prospect of an adventurous day ahead, They quickly decided to embark on this spontaneous journey right after finishing their morning meal. Eventually, the entire gang arrived at the pool, and Jiro couldn't contain his excitement as he saw everyone enjoying themselves. After an action-packed day of swimming, racing, and playful antics, they decided it was time to grab some refreshing drinks. As Jiro stood in line at the stalls, he started reciting the drink orders aloud, trying to commit them to memory. A girl in front of him turned around, visibly annoyed by the sound of his voice. However, her irritation quickly turned to embarrassment when she realized she had mistaken him for someone else. She apologized, explaining her initial reaction. Furious, Jiro asked her what was going on, and she began to tell her story. The girl confessed that she had been quite mean to a boy she once considered creepy. Her harsh words had left him hurt, and since then, he had been avoiding her. She regretted her actions deeply and didn't know how to make things right. She asked Jiro for advice, hoping he might have a solution beyond a simple apology. Jiro listened thoughtfully and then told her that sometimes a heartfelt apology is the best place to start. He stressed the importance of sincerity in making amends. The girl then revealed that people had been unkind to the boy because of her actions, and she felt responsible for fixing the situation. Jiro suggested she needed to do more than just apologize. He advised her to approach the boy with genuine remorse and offer to make amends in a meaningful way. She then asked him what he would want if he were in the boy's position, but was disheartened when he initially said just an apology. Jiro explained that while an apology was a crucial first step, she should also consider how she could support and be kind to him moving forward. He reassured her that if she sincerely apologized and tried to make things right, she had nothing to lose. The situation was already at its lowest point, so any genuine effort to improve it would be a positive step. As Jiro picks up his order and heads back to his friends, he is momentarily stopped by the girl from earlier, who offers him a drink as a thank you. After she walks away, Jiro returns to his group and sets the drinks down, ready to relax. However, his peace is short-lived as the girls immediately pounce on him, each wanting him to join them for some fun. Himawari is the first to ask him to go on a water slide, and as he agrees, Sakura quickly interjects, asking him to come with her instead. Not wanting to be left out, Pansy also chimes in with her own plan. The girls start arguing, and Jiro steps in to calm them down, suggesting that he can do all the activities they want. This sparks a new idea among the girls. They decide to turn it into a competition to see who can make Jiro have the most fun. The winner gets to make him do whatever she wants. Despite Jiro's attempts to voice his opinion, the girls are already set on their plan. Teiyu, rather than helping his friend, simply cheers the girls on, amused by the unfolding chaos. Their first stop is the water slide, as Himawari had suggested. As they head towards the slide, Jiro's initial reluctance begins to fade. He starts to enjoy the attention and effort the girls are putting into making him happy. Sliding down the water slide, Jiro relishes the excitement and the close proximity of his friends. However, things take an unexpected turn at the bottom of the slide. Jiro realizes he has lost his shorts, just as Himawari is about to catch an unintended glimpse. Teiyu heroically jumps into the water, shielding Jiro from view and preserving his dignity. Next in line was Sakura, who eagerly guided Jiro towards the dolphin rides. Just as they were about to embark, mischievous kids dashed by, teasing them mercilessly. Sakura, visibly flustered by the attention, found solace in daydreams of marital bliss, envisioning a future intertwined with Jiro's. Lost in her fantasies, she inadvertently nudged the dolphin away, leaving Jiro awkwardly seated alone. Sensing his discomfort, Teiyu swiftly joined him, and together they sailed off into the horizon, evoking cheers and applause from the onlookers. Following this, Pansy took charge, leading Jiro to the soothing hot water bath. Nestled beside him, Pansy expressed heartfelt gratitude for the opportunity to revel in the joyous camaraderie of their group. Jiro, in turn, thanked her for motivating him to reconcile with everyone, fostering a deeper sense of unity among them. The lighthearted mood took a turn when Pansy, with her characteristic playfulness, began revealing some of Jiro's embarrassing secrets she had uncovered through her observant nature. Just as potential embarrassment loomed, Teiyu once again appeared, seamlessly diffusing any awkwardness with his innate charm and ease. By the end of their escapades, Jiro found himself increasingly drawn to Teiyu, appreciating the steadfast support and companionship he had shown throughout the day. As they prepared to depart the poolside, the girls eagerly awaited Jiro's verdict on who had provided the most enjoyable experience. Without hesitation, Jiro declared Teiyu as the standout, expressing his loyalty to be Teiyu's devoted slave, willing to go to any lengths for him, even if you want to bang him. Amidst laughter and brotherhood, Jiro and Teiyu dashed off hand in hand, leaving the girls behind. The following day at school, a freshly printed edition of the school newspaper made its rounds, absolving Jiro of all the false accusations and scandals that had tarnished his reputation. The hallways buzzed with a sense of relief and a newfound respect for Jiro among his peers. To Jiro's surprise and perhaps disbelief, the divas, led by Asaka with her newly dyed jet black hair that caught his eye, approached him humbly to apologize for their past behavior. Asaka's apology struck Jiro deeply, marking the first time in a while he felt truly at ease and content within the school walls. A few days later, the arrival of Yoki, a new transfer student, added another unexpected twist to Jiro's life. Yoki wasted no time in making a bold entrance by approaching Jiro and greeting him with a kiss on the hand, leaving him utterly taken aback. Upon closer inspection, Jiro realized Yoki was none other than the girl who had manned the food stall during a pivotal baseball game a year ago. Moved by Taeyu's disappointment after a crushing defeat, Jiro had rushed to Yoki's stall and bought every skewer available, knowing they were Taeyu's favorite. Yoki's warm demeanor and kindness on that occasion had left an indelible impression on Jiro, and now her sudden appearance in his class reignited those memories. During Yoki's introduction by the teacher, she proudly revealed that her family owned a renowned chain of skewer restaurants. Taeyu, recognizing the name of the chain, enthusiastically praised their skewers, while Jiro's mind raced with thoughts about the implications of Yoki's affectionate gesture towards him. As Jiro scanned the classroom, he couldn't help but notice Asaka and Hina's disapproving glares directed at Yoki, contrasting sharply with Himawari's mischievous smirk. Himawari, always eager to stir the pot, playfully hinted at sharing the news with Sakura and Pansy to f*** him up. Later that afternoon, Yoki approached Taeyu and Himawari, who were gathered around Jiro's desk. With a smile, she recounted the incident from the baseball game, expressing her gratitude for Jiro's generous act of buying all the skewers from her family's stall. She made it clear that she intended to repay his kindness in some way. As Yoki spoke, she noticed Asaka sitting alone, clearly in a somber mood. Curious, Yoki invited Asaka to join their conversation, playfully suggesting that Asaka might also want to become one of Jiro's devoted slave, much like Yoki herself had humorously claimed earlier. Asaka vehemently denied any such notion. Her passionate denial looked like she was interested. Yoki, ever diplomatic, quickly shifted the focus back to her own intentions, reassuring Jiro that she was prepared to fulfill any request he might have. Before the conversation could delve deeper, the teacher's arrival interrupted them, prompting everyone to hastily return to their seats. During the pause in class activities, Jiro pondered Yoki's offer and her eagerness to assist him. He couldn't shake the feeling that Yoki's willingness to do anything for him must have some underlying motive. After all, why would a girl as attractive as Yoki be so eager to get clapped by him without expecting anything in return? After class, Jiro was tasked with delivering some items to the staff room. Viewing this as a chance to discern Yoki's true intentions, he cleverly asked her to accompany him. Once they had safely stowed the items in the staff room, Yoki wasted no time in turning on the charm, flirting with Jiro. This only deepened his suspicion, but before he could dwell on it further, he found himself lost in thought as he headed back towards the classroom. Unaware of a banana peel lying on the floor, Jiro was seconds away from stepping on it and potentially tripping, when Yoki swiftly grabbed his arm and pulled him away. Her sudden closeness and quick reflexes completely distracted Jiro from his investigative mission, forcing him to remind himself to stay focused until he could thoroughly assess the situation. Interrupting his thoughts, Yoki mentioned that she had brought a homemade lunch and invited Jiro to join her. The prospect of a well-prepared meal instantly appealed to him, especially since he had forgotten to bring lunch that day. Despite his lingering suspicions, Jiro agreed, albeit with a renewed commitment to decipher Yoki's true intentions. Feeling a pang of guilt over Yoki's seemingly selfless actions, Jiro decided to confront the issue head-on, asking if there was anything he could do for her in return. Anticipating a hidden agenda or ulterior motive, Jiro awaited Yoki's response with caution. To his surprise, Yoki simply expressed joy in serving him, stating that it brought her genuine happiness. Struck by her sincerity, Jiro felt his skepticism melting away, replaced by a growing curiosity about this enigmatic girl. During lunch in the library with his friends, Jiro introduced Yoki, hoping their company would shed light on her character beyond their earlier encounters. As soon as the introductions wrapped up, everyone except Sakura eagerly dug into the food, relishing the various dishes laid out. Sakura, however, hesitated, nervously contemplating how to present the handmade lunch she had packed for Jiro that day. Just as she summoned the courage to offer it to him, Yoki swiftly handed Jiro the tiffin she had brought, unwittingly overshadowing Sakura's intentions. Feeling slightly embarrassed by the timing, Sakura awkwardly chuckled at her misstep, Jiro, ever considerate, noticed her discomfort and promptly asked if he could try some of her homemade lunch. Her face lit up with relief and joy as she gladly shared her carefully prepared meal with him. After the satisfying lunch, Pansy delighted everyone with her famous handmade cookies, a treat that lifted everyone's spirits. Jiro, however, found himself immobilized by the sheer amount of food he had consumed, content but unable to move comfortably. As the conversation flowed, he and Sun eagerly discussed their upcoming tennis and baseball tournaments. Sakura eagerly offered her support, promising to organize a cheering squad and coordinate schedules to ensure there were no conflicts between their games. Impressed by her dedication, Yoki turned to Jiro and inquired about his talents. Jiro shrugged modestly, claiming he wasn't particularly skilled at anything in particular. Undeterred, Yoki expressed confidence that he would discover his own strengths in due time. After lunch, as the other students shuffled out of the classroom, Pansy beckoned for Jiro to stay behind. Jiro wasted no time in asserting that he wasn't keen on discussing Yoki, now that he had found someone who loved him unconditionally. Pansy nodded understandingly, assuring him that she harbored no ill feelings towards Yoki's gestures. She comprehended the impulse to reciprocate kindness. However, Pansy didn't shy away from addressing what she perceived as Jiro's tendency to avoid conflict. She gently pointed out that he had accepted Yoki's lavish lunch, despite knowing he couldn't possibly finish it. Furthermore, he had also accepted Cosmo's lunch to avoid hurting her feelings. Pansy expressed concern that Jiro's habit of being overly accommodating could inadvertently lead to misunderstandings and unmet expectations. She encouraged him to find a balance between kindness and assertiveness, urging him to confront situations honestly rather than avoiding them. Transitioning to a lighter topic, Pansy reached into her bag and pulled out a book, describing it as one of her all-time favorites. She expressed a genuine desire for them to explore more shared interests and have meaningful discussions. Jiro admitted he was a slow reader, but Pansy reassured him with a warm smile, telling him it was perfectly fine. She eagerly awaited his thoughts on the book once he had finished it, emphasizing her curiosity about his perspective. Grateful for Pansy's candid advice and companionship, Jiro thanked her sincerely before mentioning a commitment related to a school tradition that would occupy his time after classes that day. He regretfully declined her invitation to the library, but promised to catch up with her soon. After school, Jiro stepped out of the convenience store, only to be ambushed by Himawari, who leaped onto him with surprising force. Startled and annoyed, he pushed her away, exclaiming loudly as he picked himself up from the ground. His irritation grew as he hurried home, only to realize that his bag, left carelessly open, had cost him dearly. Pansy's cherished book was nowhere to be found. Rushing back to the scene of the unexpected tackle, Jiro began a frantic search, scouring every nook and cranny with increasing desperation. It was then that Cherry and Suki, familiar faces from earlier that day, approached him with concern. They inquired about his distress, and upon learning of the lost book, offered their help eagerly. Together, they retraced his steps, combing through the store meticulously in hopes of finding any trace of the missing item. Returning to Jiro empty-handed, Cherry and Suki wore looks of disappointment. They questioned the book's significance, to which Jiro affirmed its importance with a heavy heart. Just as hope began to dwindle, Suki produced the book from her bag, worn and weathered, but intact. Jiro's initial relief was short-lived as he inspected the battered condition of Pansy's beloved possession. Resolute in making amends, Jiro resolved to procure a replacement copy. However, Cherry's inquiry about the book's content gave him pause. She disclosed that a friend had mentioned its value in hushed tones, whispering a figure that struck Jiro like a blow. The realization of its worth left him pale and disheartened, knowing it was beyond his means. Grateful for Cherry and Suki's assistance and the lead on where to acquire a new copy, Jiro thanked them sincerely before departing. The next day at lunch, Jiro sat alone at a table in the cafeteria, deeply engrossed in a job magazine. He flipped through the pages with focused determination, each listing a potential opportunity to earn money. His primary goal was clear: to save enough to replace Pansy's lost book, a task that weighed heavily on his mind. Sakura approached him with a lunchbox in hand, hoping to lift his spirits with a meal she had prepared. Despite her efforts, Jiro remained fixated on his search, seemingly unable to divert his attention from the job listings. Seeing Sakura's disappointment grow, Teiyu attempted to draw Jiro into casual conversation about school events and news, but Jiro's mind was preoccupied and distant. Suddenly, Himawari, always impulsive, snatched the magazine from Jiro's hands, startling him. Irritation flared up instantly on Jiro's face, annoyed at the interruption in his quest for employment. His frustration at the situation and the pressure to secure a job mounted. It was then that Yoki intervened, offering Jiro a lifeline. My cousin just opened a new store and they urgently need help. They're offering good pay. Initially hesitant, Jiro's resistance crumbled when Yoki disclosed the wage. The promise of financial stability was too tempting to ignore. Reluctantly, Jiro accepted the job offer, knowing it meant sacrificing his cherished after-school visits to the library. The thought weighed heavily on him, especially considering how much those visits meant to Pansy. Jiro waited until everyone else had left the cafeteria after lunch, then asked Pansy to stay behind for a moment. When they were alone, he handed her the book and offered a heartfelt apology for its condition. He admitted that he needed to save up for a new copy, which was why he had taken on the part-time job. Pansy listened quietly, her expression softening as he explained, rather than insisting on a replacement. Pansy surprised Jiro with a different request. She told him she didn't need a new book. Instead, she wanted him to spend more time with her at the library after school. Jiro hesitated, torn between his desire to make things right and the practical need for money. After a thoughtful discussion, Jiro managed to convince Pansy of his decision. That evening, he arrived at Yoki's shop with a mix of nerves and determination. Yoki welcomed him warmly and showed him his new uniform. As Jiro put it on, he felt a blend of excitement and uncertainty. That's it for this video. Watch the following video, and I'll catch you in the next one.